From Vox Markets, I'm Francesca Morgan. Joining me today is Avihu Tamir, CEO and founder of Kanabo Group. Thanks for joining me today, Avihu.
Thank you, Francesca.
Now, let's first touch on your personal entry into the market. So, as an entrepreneur that seems to have already made a pretty big mark in this still nascent industry, I'd say, your experience within the medicinal cannabis market seems pretty extensive, from having had a foothold in multiple Israeli ventures, as well as being a former patient yourself. So at what point did you decide to invest in this market, and what were your reasons for entering the market?
So for me, I had to say that I didn't choose cannabis, so cannabis chose me. It wasn't a logic decision that I'm going to go into the cannabis industry. First, I was a patient. I discovered cannabis is extremely helpful with migraines, and that was the first entry for me to the market as a patient. As a patient, I discovered a lot of, I would say, lacking products in the market in general. The first products that I was prescribed by physicians are flowers, and I'm being taught how to roll cannabis cigarette. So obviously, any person with a bit of common sense will see that there's an opportunity in this market. And I entered this market with my first company in Israel. That was an import and distribution company for medical equipment and mainly vaporizers, from flowers to the general market of medical cannabis.
That's great. Now, you've previously said that you think the biggest barrier into the medicinal cannabis market is the gap between what patients are looking for and what physicians can actually prescribe. Would you say this is the sort of messaging behind Kanabo Group? Are you working towards narrowing this gap?
Yeah, of course. One of the biggest problems of cannabis in Europe, it's not unique for the UK, is that still today the medical establishment and physicians feel uncomfortable to prescribe cannabis. You have a lot that are joining now and prescribing more cannabis, but when you're speaking with physicians, the main reason that they feel uncomfortable, they're saying that this is not a medicine, it's more of an agricultural product. So they do believe in the efficacy and the safety of the product, but they just don't perceive it as a medical one. And the main reason is the method of administration. You won't convince any physician that smoking anything, by the way, is the right medical route to consume a medicine. In addition, physicians, they need the capability to prescribe a specific dose. How do you dose flower that's being smoked? Even if you're using the flower in a vaporizer, you still almost have no capability to dose it, because the flowers are different every time that it's being grown, like any agriculture product. And that's a real gap in the market. And there is solutions like oils and tinctures, but they're not succeeding very much with patients. So the patients are choosing again and again to smoke the plant, and it's mainly for the efficacy side. Consuming cannabis orally have a much lower efficacy, longer duration of effect. So the bioavailability is low. And that's basically the difference between what physicians are looking for and what patients are looking for.
Great. Now, before we get into public perception and the market itself, Kanabo has described itself as having adopted a unique holistic business model. This spans from research to consumption itself. Could you explain what this means exactly as a business model?
So our business model is basically focusing and creating innovative products. How do we bring new products beyond just the cannabis flowers? Product that can be medical registered and prescribed. And in the same time, working with partners across the supply chain to commercialize these products. Lately, we announced the acquisition of Materia Ventures. Materia is adding to the enlarged group a lot of force, because suddenly the enlarged group has the capability to manufacture products as an EU GMP. EU GMP is a pharmaceutical grade manufacturing protocols, and that's probably one of the huge barrier to entry for this market. Any company that will want to sell products in a medical market in cannabis needs this EU GMP license and facility. And just to understand, to get a license like this, we're talking about anything between 5 to 10 million pounds in investment, and approximately 3 years in the process to receive it. So it's a real barrier to entry. And some territories would not be able to get this EU GMP facility license. In Israel, there's a big challenge for manufacturers to receive this certificate. In South America, almost impossible. So that's really a challenge for many cultivators around the world.
Mm. And as you said, Kanabo is focused on medicalizing the sector via its services and products. Could you touch on any of the other companies' offerings that it's prioritizing right now?
So beyond the vaporization, we're going to bring other delivery methods. At this point, we're enlarging the product lines that being consumed via vaporization. So that means both on medical cannabis. We have just announced the launch of the medical cannabis medical formulations in the UK. This is available for patients through the Life Group and the Life Clinics. And in the same time, we're launching our non-THC, so wellness product lines that are mainly CBD and other cannabinoids into the wellness sector. That means that even patients that don't have the capability to get a prescription of medical cannabis will be able to buy the products via online or specific retailers in the UK. And this is basically, I believe, for many people, will be the first time being exposed to cannabis, to CBD, and is a treatment that can help many indications.
And since many of your products, as you just outlined, have a foothold in the wellness sector, do you think that associations between cannabis and the wellness market will lead or has led to a more diverse market that is more conscious of medicinal cannabis and sort of its positive implications?
I think that we all should be honest and see that CBD opened the door for cannabis as well. Many people had maybe wrong perceived cannabis as something that is threatening, maybe dangerous, because of many years of this product being an illicit drug. Now suddenly CBD came, and you can buy it everywhere, and you can try it, and you see that there's no dangerous side effects of consuming cannabis. And CBD is just a cannabinoid in cannabis. So it did get a lot of support. It didn't bring a lot of support to medical cannabis. And I believe that the next step is seeing patients getting safe access to medical cannabis in the UK and starting to share their experience. I know many patients, and I work with patients in Israel, and it's changing their life. Patients that are putting aside the addictive medicines like opiates or benzos because they had dependencies, and suddenly starting to work with cannabis, it's life-changing.
And what was your strategy, would you say, to attract investors and clients that were timid given the stigma of the industry and its past narrative? And did you see any difference between markets?
I was surprised that there was not big worry about cannabis as an investment. Most investors, even in the UK, were already educated, I would say, through the revolution happened in North America. The regulator, perhaps a bit different. When we started our listing process, we started it in early 19. And obviously, it was a long path. It took 2 years to list the company. And that was the first one. And only after we started to see other medical cannabis companies or CBD companies. And I would say that the regulator is a bit more careful. We see this that's across the markets. Sadly, we see that the NHS is a bit more slow than other organizations. But in the end of the day, I believe that the logic is going to prevail and win. There is a flower here that assisting people, helping people, and is much more safer than most of the medicines that are being prescribed as of today.
And whilst it might remain slow in terms of pace, clearly both the UK government and the London Stock Exchange, since medicinal cannabis was legalized, have embraced the sector a lot more at an increasingly sort of faster pace. Of course, Canabo was one of the first within its sector to float. How do you view its position within the UK market specifically?
So Kanabo is positioned very well, I believe, in the UK market. As a company, we have decided that although the UK market is still small in terms of medical cannabis compared to Israel, compared to Germany, and even compared to Italy today, for us, being a UK company, we feel that it's not only the opportunity that we see in this market. We believe that the UK market will be one of the most interesting medical cannabis markets. It's a bit of a duty as well to provide safe access to millions of patients that are in the UK. And right now, they do have a challenge to receive safe access to cannabis. And as a company, we believe that we should assist and work towards having these options, if it's from unique products and safe products and delivery methods, to having a capability to prescribe cannabis easier.
And how can the UK catch up to the level of growth seen in other markets like Canada or Germany?
I think that the positive thing is it's quite easy. It's a decision in a regulatory level. If the UK will decide that they want to pursue and really leverage the opportunity here, the market in Europe is still tiny. Yeah, Germany maybe is more significant, but the rest of the countries are all starting in the same level and pace. Safe access, being able to have GPs from the NHS prescribe cannabis, that will be a key. In addition, being able to import good products quicker will help very much the industry. And even grow of the internal industry in the UK, domestic cultivation, production, all this will be extremely helpful. So I believe that these are the things that the government should do.
And how do you view Canabos' position in the more wider global medicinal cannabis market? So I'm sure this will relate particularly to the proposed acquisition of Materia.
Yeah. So the more interesting market right now, or the most interesting market in Europe, is the German market. The German market is already a significant market, approximately 200 to 300 million euros a year of medical cannabis, and a growth that is stable, around 35% year-by-year growth. And the market is expected to reach 2 billion euros market in the next 4 years. So you really see a market that is already existing. On top of it, in Germany, you have coverage for medical cannabis. So you have insurance covering the cost of the product. Therefore, you have high quality products, but still with competitive pricing that patients can afford. And all this together, making this market a very interesting. That will be where Materia, that has already distribution channels in Germany, will come into place. And the capability of manufacturing now additional products in Malta as EU GMP, that will definitely bring Kanabo to become a player that bring new innovative products and producing it internally in-house as well. So I think that putting aside North America, Canada will be a significant player around the world.
Mm. And you've said that you expect the UK market to have established a solid model for the market, like Canada and Germany, within the next 2 years. As this pans out, what can you say about Canabos' revenue growth ambitions and its potential?
So if we're taking the segment of vaporization and looking in more mature markets, for example, the market in North America, right now in the US, doesn't really matter if it's a medical state or a recreational state, vaporization of cannabis extracts are usually around 30% from the products are being sold. This is the fastest growing segment and the biggest segment if you're putting inside cannabis flowers. And if we are assuming that this will be approximately the same percentage in the European market, the European market is expected to be around $3 to $4 billion in the next 4 years. So that's our addressable market. We're looking at an addressable market that will be anywhere between $500 million to $1 billion. So really giving the size of the opportunity. And there's no medical device that is competing with the cannabis device at this point. So we will have the first mover advantage, or probably a few years, and a very high barrier to entry to competitors.
Just to touch on the financial side, what can you say about the size and strength of Kanabos' balance sheet, a factor which, of course, will be important in shaping these ambitions?
So since listing in February, Kanabo raised £7 million. This is a significant amount. We plan to raise around 4 in the beginning. So that gives us quite a strong balance sheet. We have almost sufficient funds for the current plan that will go beyond 24 months. Having said that, we're bringing into the enlarged group some other very strong players that have their own capabilities on financing and revenue generating. So all in all together, Kanabo, compared to many private companies, I think that the balance sheet and strength is above average.
And interesting, just talking about the difference between public and private also makes me think of big and small. So I know a couple of years ago it was speculation that a lot of big tobacco and big pharma companies, who of course were previously opposed to the medicinal cannabis sector, were now sort of looking to capitalize on this growth. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think the cannabis market is better in the hands of smaller, more vocational businesses?
I will advocate to have a bit more smaller companies and more competition. I think it's better for any market. Having said that, tobacco companies, big tobacco is already in the game, and they will become very significant. If you're looking ahead 5 to 10 years, all of the tobacco companies will be cannabis companies. There's no question. You see that British American Tobacco has already invested significantly, Imperial Brands, Altria, probably with the biggest investment in the cannabis company until today with Kronos. And even seeing the last comments from seniors in Philip Morris saying that CBD is the future of this industry, and medical cannabis will definitely be something that the company will leverage on. It's quite clear that while perhaps pharmaceutical companies are still moving very carefully, the big tobacco understand that the cannabis is the future for their business.
And just looking ahead, I know we've touched on this before, but what would you single out as being non-negotiable for the UK market, ensuring strong foundations for the market to be able to flourish as you predicted?
I believe that above all is quality and quality assurance. Sometimes we're forgetting that it is a medicine, that the people that are consuming cannabis are patients, and the supervision on the quality of products has to be high. EU GMP is an important requirements. Having data on the products, trials are something that the government should support. And I really think that this is one of the things that no government should give up on.
And finally, how do you view the future of the sector and, most importantly, Canabos' foothold in it?
The future of the sector is happening now. I don't think we need to wait a lot. The changes in cannabis are fast. The market is moving extremely fast, and we see changes happening on a monthly basis. It's not an industry that you're waiting even years. Kanabo will become one of the leading pan-European companies, entering new markets, establishing a stronger foothold in the existing territories and countries. On top of it, what I believe is going to be a key is the last mile. So really having this relationship with the patients, with the pharmacies, being able to have not only the capability to produce and innovate and develop new products, but actually commercialize them and giving the patients or customers the service that they should have.
Great. Thank you so much, Avihu.
Thank you.